طريقتنا الصحوة والخير في الجميع. وأشكرنا على ما أديتمونا وما كانت وقت المتوكل صلاة الله العظيم. Peygamberler Kur'an-ı Azimşan'da devamlı iyi insanlar eziyet çekmiş.
Allah Almighty mentions in the Holy Quran that the prophets and messengers of Allah Almighty and the good ones, the believers, have always undergone oppression. The believers, the good ones, the prophets, they all were exposed to all kinds of oppression, and they were made to suffer by their people. And they were exposed to all kinds of badness. And the reason why was because they followed the way of Allah Almighty. And they were steadfast, following the way of Allah Almighty, and regardless of all the difficulties and oppression they were facing, they said, we will not deviate from the way of Allah Almighty, but hold fast to Allah Almighty's way. We will continue to follow the way of Allah Almighty with patience and consistency. And we will be patient, and we will not give in the face of the oppression and the torment you make us undergo. We are patient and we trust in Allah Almighty. Now there are no longer prophets of Allah Almighty. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was of the seal, the last of all prophets. But now there are the truthful believers. They are those who follow the Prophet's way. And those who follow the way of Allah Almighty are also undergoing oppression and torment. And this has been how things were in the past, and this is how things still are today, that those who follow the way of Allah Almighty undergo oppression and being tormented. And as we now live in the end of times, oppression, suffering and torment have increased. The more good one does, the more one is exposed to oppression. The more one is exposed to be made suffer. But those who follow the way of Allah Almighty should trust in Allah Almighty. They should trust and follow the way of Allah Almighty just as the prophets did before them. Those who trust in Allah Almighty must know that whatever they do, it will not be in vain. Even though they may suffer, even though they may be exposed to affliction, torment and oppression, in the sight of Allah Almighty, however, they will be rewarded abundantly. Allah Almighty, without any doubt, will reward them for having been steadfast in following the way of Allah Almighty and not having given in the face of the oppression they undergo. And the greatest reward they are already given is that it's not them who are the oppressors.
mazlum olmaları,
It is a favor in this sense that they are not the oppressors but the victim.
onlara büyük mükafattır.
This is indeed a great reward for them already.
Çünkü Allah mazlumla beraberdir.
Because Allah Almighty, He is with the innocent, not with the oppressor.
Allah Azze ve Celle mazlumun duasından benim aramda perde yok.
Allah Almighty says, there's no veil, there's no curtain between me and between the innocent and victim.
Zalimler muhakkak onun cezasını çeker.
The oppressors, without any doubt, will be held accountable.
Yaptıklarına burada pişman olmasalar,
And they will be punished accordingly if they do not repent and ask forgiveness in this world.
ahirette pişman olurlar.
And if they do not regret in this world, they will be made to regret in the hereafter.
Çünkü bazı insanlara zulüm yapınca bazen tek insana zulüm yapmış olur.
There are various forms of oppression, and one form of oppression may be to make an individual suffer.
Bazılarına yapınca onun yaptığı iyiliklerden mahrum olan çok insan olur.
But there's also this form of oppression where one torments a community of people or a group of people and prevents that group of people from doing goodness.
Bir insan yüzünden bir hayli insana zulüm yapılmış olur.
And then it is because of one person, all those people, that group of people, that community of people is being made to suffer and is being oppressed and discriminated against.
Onlar hepsinin hakkını Allah Azze ve Celle alır.
But they must know that Allah Almighty will establish justice and will hold the one accountable for having made all those people suffer.
Allah'a tevekkül etmek lazım.
Trust in Allah Almighty.
Hepsi onların Allah rızası için yapılan şeylerdir. Allah yolunda yapılan iyiliklerdir.
And those who do goodness and those who want to do goodness for the sake of Allah Almighty should trust in Allah Almighty.
İnsanlara yol gösterip yardım etmek, her türlü
It is recommendable to do goodness and to show people the right way
iyiliği yapmak
and to do all kinds of good things.
Allah içindir, Allah rızası içindir.
And these good actions are meant to be for the sake of Allah Almighty and for obtaining Allah Almighty's satisfaction.
Onu men eden insanlar, onlar zalimdir.
And those who prevent people from doing good are oppressors.
Muhakkak cezasını bulur.
And those tyrants will be held accountable and they will be punished accordingly.
Allah akıl fikir versin insanlara.
May Allah Almighty make people see things clearly so that they think and understand,
Ahiretleri dünyalık için satmasınlar.
so that they realize the importance of the hereafter and that they do not replace the hereafter with this world, so that they do not sell their hereafter for the sake of this world.
O büyük alim olan geçinen insanlar var.
There are so many so-called scholars who allegedly are renowned scholars,
Onlar dünya için ahiretlerini satan,
but they have sold their hereafter for the sake of this world.
en çok onlardır. Allah muhafaza etsin o şerlerinden.
And may Allah Almighty protect us from their evil.
İslam, Allah daim etsin İslam'ı, Müslümanları hidayet versin.
May Allah Almighty make Islam and Muslims prevail, and may Allah Almighty guide the Muslims.
Böyle zalimlere ve hidayet olmasa onların akıbetleri iyi olmaz.
And may Allah Almighty protect the Muslims from those tyrants and from those oppressors who prevent them from doing good and from following the right way. And may Allah Almighty make the Muslims obtain Allah Almighty's guidance.
Allah hakla beraber, haklılarla beraber olsun her zaman.
May Allah Almighty make the Muslims stand by the truth always.
Onlara yardımcı olsun.
May Allah Almighty support the Muslims in standing by the truth.
Onlarla tawfik al-Fatiha.